Okay, I'm currently speaking with Kevin So, arguably one of the most sought-after creative in Singapore. He quit his job at the peak of his career when he's the Vice Chairman, Chief Creative Officer for Publicis Asia. Then he was driving a Maserati, and he traded that for a four-door pickup truck, where he sometimes gets accused as a contractor and being denied to his friend's condominium. More than that, he's also a father of two and spends most of his time now with his kids, sometimes forcing them to present on stage, and most notably on head stage.
Okay. I wouldn't say
Any
forcing.
argument? Thank you for taking your time out.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, so while researching, I encountered this main thing that kept bothering me. So you have like 4 O levels and half a A level. What does that mean? Was it because you have 4 O level subjects, or you took 4 O level half?
Oh no, I had 4 O levels, and I was given the choice to repeat your O levels, but I chose not to, and then went to a private college in the 80s called Stanford College. And when I first went into my college, my classmates there's this girl that had just been released from prison because she stabbed her boyfriend. And then there were a few other people who were, either working in the army. It was a motley crew of people. So there were some were already kind of adults and all. So this was in the 80s where you needed to have a degree or qualifications to get ahead. Right,
and during then, after that, you went into army.
Yeah. So even though I did my private college there, I still didn't do well. I enjoyed my life and my time there. I learned a lot. So I did 2 years, didn't get my A level. I retook the test. I still didn't get my A levels.
So was that the reason why it's called half A level?
Yeah, I had 1 A level pass in English, and I did quite well in my GP, and a pass in literature, and that's it. The rest, no.
Then,
no.
Okay. Well, to put some meat on the bones, we only pass one subject, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so after the army, you came out and then you got your first job. I mean, not the first job, but in advertising of So. Well, as a traffic.
Yeah, I think the journey from that was after the army. My dad came out and said, like, look, we're going to mortgage the HDB flat, the 4-room HDB flat in Bedok, and we're going to send you to Australia, okay, to study and get a degree. Because my father was a civil servant, my mother was a civil servant teacher and all. So they go, back in the 80s, if you don't have a degree, you can't get ahead in life. So at 21, I made the decision I said, no, I can't do that to you. You can't mortgage the flat because maybe I've grown up quite a lot during those years and you know a lot about yourself. So I kind of realized that if I had gone to Australia, I won't come back with a degree. I'm very clear on that. I might come back a father, but I wouldn't come back with a degree. So I said no, and my dad didn't speak to me for a while because he was quite upset. Then I started looking for a job. I was a camera salesman, film developer. I was a telemarketer, lifeguard. I worked in Tampines Junior College in a fast food kind of stall selling stuff. So for about a year, I was just doing these odd jobs. In the meantime, trying to get a job in the Straits Times as a journalist because
this is what you're good at.
Yeah,
English.
writing was good. Yeah, and the reply generally was you need to have a degree, English degree, before you join us as a journalist. In the meantime, with your qualifications, entry level grade 2 clerk is your position. So then it finally came down to a choice. Maybe I have to go into the banking industry, become a trader, because you don't need qualifications. And somehow rather I lucked into this, I wrote into this job for Ogilvy and Mather, and it had a quote from David Ogilvy that says, "We sell or else." So I wrote in an impassioned letter that says, "I have these qualifications, but I'm good at this, blah, blah, blah. So call me or else." And they called.
And back then it was really, you wrote as not email, write.
There's no email, yeah, no.
Or typewriter.
Yeah, typewriter, and I hand wrote it and then sent it to them. Then I had an interview, and the same thing, I wrote in to be a writer, a copywriter, but they said you have to have a degree. So, but they said in the meantime, I've this job for you, which was in traffic. And traffic was so low down the totem pole. Even the dispatch riders were ranked above us. They will make us buy coffee for them.
So I'm curious because like I really don't know what is traffic. Like do we still use the term now?
In the past, but now
Okay,
it's
so what
project
does-
management. So basically, traffic functions as your glorified office boy, where you take briefs from the account person who has met the client, you put it in the system, you pass it to the creative person, and you chase the deadlines to make sure they come up with the ideas, to give it to the account person to present to clients. That's all you do. You're just doing trafficking.
Okay.
Briefs.
Because I was just puzzled. Like when I was like my friends.
Of course, now you have all the various apps now like Evernote and Slack and all that. That's basically what I was doing before.
Okay, your job got replaced by
Yeah, of course.
the technology. Yeah, could you paint us a picture actually how was working in a job agency like in the 90s? And you were wearing short, right? You briefly mentioned.
I mean, it was.
How was that like any different from now?
Advertising then was a new industry. There was no classes, no courses on it, and you learned as you go. So it was a bit of a wild west situation, and we had also a lot of in the creative department because it was so new. So you had a lot of expatriates in. You have good ones and you have bad ones, like everywhere in life. The trick is, it's actually up to you how hungry you are. So even though my job scope was traffic, I made friends with all of them and then tried to get them to, hey, can I also work on this? And when I'm done, can I show you? The good ones will go, yeah, sure, I'll spare, because you're interested and you're hungry, they will spare you the time. The bad ones will go, no, you shouldn't be doing this, just stick to your job, okay? You go ahead and do that, and then after a while, if you're good enough, and somehow I was lucky enough, I got noticed, and then they gave you more and more things to do. Then I started doing more than what my job description was.
And you from a traffic, you quickly rose up in a short, about
Yeah.
3 years to a ACD assistant creative director, I assume.
No, I mean, okay, so
I saw LinkedIn and I was ACD. What is ACD?
So no, I joined as traffic.
Yeah.
Then within a year, I was offered a position of either being an account person or creative person.
Right.
I actually chose to be an account person to understand the business and client relationships. But while I was still an account person, I was still writing ads, which was quite odd. As in, I was doing these.
So you're doing both?
A lot of yeah. And then finally, I was given so within maybe 2 or 3 years of that job as in traffic, I was then awarded Employee of the Year. Okay, so I was the Employee of the Year, and then they put me on the fast track. They say, okay, the Swedish creative director, whom, to be honest, I owe my career to, he plucked me out and said, you should be a writer. So I became a writer, and then it took off from there. So then I left Ogilvy, I went to Y&R. So within the second year of my career, so I was winning some awards in Ogilvy. I won more at Y&R. And at Y&R in 1996, I left. Mm-hmm. And I said, and the creative director asked me, why am I leaving? I said, oh, I'm going to join this agency, Saatchi's. Then he goes, oh, you shouldn't go. I'll make you group head. So I would have been 28 years old and a group head, which was quite a senior position for someone with only 3-4 years in the industry.
And a group head, just to put it into terms, is the head of the creative?
Of a group of creatives.
Okay.
Okay, then the ACD is associate creative director, then creative director. So he was the creative director. So he said, I'll make you a group head. So I asked him quite tongue-in-cheek, but quite seriously, I asked, are you going to move up to a regional position? Right. Then he said, no, I'm very happy just running the Singapore office. Then I go, then I can't replace you. So I have to leave. So I was a bit ambitious. So I joined this agency, Saatchi's. They had a new creative director, David Droga, who just joined. He's the same age as me. And he came in as the regional creative director. And I was his first hire. And I remember our first interview, and I go, I like this guy's energy, and I like his passion, what he wanted to do. And he goes, I like you, but I'm not sure about you, so we'll put you on probation. And I got like, okay. So, I'm already established, but okay, I'll take you up on that. So I said, okay, in 6 months, I took a 20% pay cut. I shook his hand. I said, in 6 months, if it doesn't work out, I leave or you fire me. It doesn't matter, but okay. But in 6 months, if it does, then you restore the salary. So I wasn't going for money. I was going for opportunity. Okay. And in that 2 years from 96 to 98, I think I won practically every award around Asia and around the world. So it was an investment that paid off. And then you were then associate creative director.
Well, what awards were?
The biggest awards then were.
What were the award that you're most proud to get?
I mean,
or the campaign you're most proud to work on.
I think
the work that you're most proud at during the
most
time.
Proud. I did a lot of the work for the Singapore Navy in the 90s, and that was very well received both locally as well as abroad. And the Singapore Navy then, unlike the Army or the Air Force, they were quite willing to take risks. So the work was very different. It's not, if you watch a Singapore Army commercial, to be honest, it's always, every year it hasn't changed. It'll be this shot of a jungle, and then suddenly people emerge. Ta-da! I'm camouflage. So every year it's the same thing. But the Navy work had a bit of wit, and they didn't have to recruit in big numbers, so they wanted to recruit smarter and more interesting people. I remember we did this MRT poster. It had a guy that would slide. Whenever the train stops, the guy would slide. And then when it goes, it slides back because it's inertia, right? And kinetic energy and all of that. So we had to experiment to get the right weight on. And basically, in one poster was him sliding from the photocopier machine to the photocopier machine. Then it said, is there more to life than that? You know what I mean? The idea of there's adventure on the high seas awaiting you, or the mundane office life. There was another one where he was sliding between two bosses, one boss pointing at the other boss. So all he did throughout the whole MRT thing was sliding. So for them, they did it. I mean, and those were the days where we took the poster, we went on the train, no one was looking, we put it up and then tried to figure out how heavy should that figure be to slide on and off.
And tell me about the mechanics that actually go.
It was on a roller, and you had to put weights behind the guy.
So is it like the curtain?
Yeah. So we had to engineer all that. So there was all these things were fantastic. We could do it, and we did work for CDL and these property agencies, and we won awards even for property ads, right? So in terms of awards, then the biggest awards, the two biggest were the British Design Art Directors Club, which was very hard to get into, and just to get in was an achievement. And most years, no one won a gold. Most people just got a silver. And then the other one was the New York One Show. That would be the Oscars of the advertising show.
Is it still is now?
Well, there are a lot more, like all things, there are a lot more shows out there than now. But in the before 2000, those were the big shows.
And it was the Navy ad that brought you?
What Navy, and there was a Toyota Corolla ad, which was, that was the ad that won a lot of awards. It was the idea that we're very overprotective. Parents are overprotective towards their children. That's all. So you should drive the world's safest family car. The visual was a baby wrapped up in bubble wrap and wearing a bubble wrap suit with a cap. And we actually had this young Singapore Poly student sew and stick the whole thing on the baby, and we quickly shot it. Those were the days when, cruelty to babies was still,
I don't know how you will see the ad now.
It's online, you can find it. So that
that's great.
That won big around the world as well.
Yeah, and so then you move over to New York City to work at Fallon & Fallon.
Fallon, yeah.
Fallon. Now that's the question is, you were the big fish in this small pond. Why did you want to jump over to the big pond and become the small fish, all
Right.
over again.
I think
And back then, you also mentioned that your dad have actually some health problem, that
Yeah.
you were having a dilemma to go to New York City.
so. If you look at my career, it's always been a series of risks, right? Decided not to go to Australia for university, so you decide to do things on your own. Decided to, you got a job in advertising, and then you moved to another agency and moved to another and took a pay cut to get there. So there was so in 1998-99, I won all the awards. Droga was then promoted and he went to London. And I was asked, do you want to go up to London? So I was given a choice, or a work around Asia. I had the pick of any job around Asia. I think that was the stage where it kicked in again and go, actually, why don't we figure out how good you are in the world's biggest market? Let's go to America. So that's the second, that's the leap that you take again. So every stage in your career, you keep pushing yourself to be a little bit more uncomfortable and to go into the unknown. What's the worst that can happen? You don't make it in America, you can come back. So the decision was made in 1999. I go, okay, let's go. I told my girlfriend, now wife, then I said, let's go on this adventure. She goes, awesome, let's go. And we did this huge road trip throughout America in 1999, interviewing from LA up to Seattle, down to up to Portland,
Oregon.
yeah, then down to
Washington.
Richmond, Virginia, then Boston, New York, and all. So I interviewed and got into all these some prestigious agencies and met them. It just happens that people say I'm lucky, but I think you work very hard to be lucky. So it just happened to be on that day in New York, I managed to get tickets to the one show. And on that night, I won 2 golds, 3 silvers, and it was very close to being the best of show. And I had, then after that, all the headhunters coming to you and talking to you. Then I almost literally then had a pick of any agency I wanted to go to. Now that wouldn't have happened if I didn't make the decision to, so imagine if I was in Singapore, I wasn't up there, it would be completely different. They'll go like, oh, this person, what, I don't know who he
And
is.
you actually send your work in.
Yeah, all the agencies submitted the work around
Okay,
the world.
and you were representing then it was Saatchi.
Yeah, Saatchi Singapore. Saatchi Singapore sent a whole bunch of work. We send a whole bunch of work every year. So it's not me. The agency will send it.
But you were there at the show,
Yeah, I was. Yeah, it's
which
just
you
one
would
of those
then get pitched at by the headhunters, saw and.
So you can say I was lucky, but again, it's a series of, when you think of the process and the journey, it's
Yes.
not actually luck. But if you look at the isolated incident, it looks like it's luck.
Definitely, I agree that it's not luck at all. And you have put in a lot of hard work before even in Singapore, and that's the credential you need to
paid
have
your
before
dues.
you can make the next step,
Yeah.
right? So I'm curious about the advertising agency, since like you being like one of the top guys there. Could you tell me about how the model works, the business model in advertising works before, what are the supporting roles that formed around it? I mean, you mentioned a little bit on creative and traffic and.
Well, in those days, it was quite simple. It was you have a group of people called the account people who would manage the clients, meet the clients, talk to the clients about their needs, and then they'll come back, they'll brief, write a brief, and then brief the creative people to produce it. And then there's auxiliary people like traffic, the production people, whether it's producing print, radio, or TV. Simple. Right? Nowadays, it's a lot more complex. You have planners, strategic planners, who will then figure out what the business problems, who are you talking to, what's your demographics, psychographics, a day in the life of your target consumer to find out where are the points that they're most susceptible or most open to the message that you want to deliver, etc. So it's become obviously a lot more complicated. And there are so many more channels to go through, right? So it's no one. How many people read newspapers these days, right? So if newspapers are out and radio is out, then all these other channels come in.
Yeah, and I always hear that like advertising can actually earn a lot of money, and by that maybe because back then it was during the golden age of advertising where industrialization just started and people were susceptible to the message that you can actually put in and how much message you put in. So where does the money come from? And so how big is it really, the big money?
If you go to any job site, any headhunter job site, you can get an idea of what a creative director makes or what a managing director of a large agency makes. They make anywhere from, depending on the agency, anything from 20,000 to 50,000 a month, and that's excluding year-end bonuses, etc. So there is money. Whether the money is still there is another question, as budgets are cut or it goes into other things.
So from what I'm seeing, it's kind of like a big company, say for example Subway, comes to the company and like lets a few company bid for the, correct. And so they will have a budget to start with, and so you decide how you want to use it. So once the idea is good, they liked it, you get the whole business and you get to use the amount of budget in the way of...
in an ideal world, that's how it sounds like. But I mean, you're paid for like in any business, you're paid for goods and service that people think are valuable. If it's not valuable, then you're paid less, okay? The thing that our industry had in the past was, there's this famous quote, like, I spend something like I spend half my budget on advertising, something like that, I think. But the guy basically says, it's working, but I don't know which half. So we couldn't account and figure out whether advertising really worked or not. You can say people liked your brand, there was more awareness and all of that. But in this day and age, when you go online advertising and creating your content, instantly you can see the accountability, the number of hits going up, people interacting or people engaging with you, for example. Again, I'm oversimplifying. Okay, so your whole method of so advertising, it'll take you 6 months, let's say, to shoot a very complex TV commercial. And you plan to run it for a year, sometimes 2 years. So imagine running the same content for 2 years or even a year. Try doing it now. You run it for a month, people get bored.
Right now, there's actually a lot more work to be done because then you need to create a lot more content.
But you don't have the luxury of 6 months to finish a TV commercial. You're given 6 months and go do me 100 short snippets. Okay, so the process has evolved, the process has changed, and people's relationship with communication has evolved. So you learn, do, and fix, and you test, you copy test, and you fix, and you on the go as well to figure out what headline, what works, what words
A/B
can
testing.
resonate. Yeah, all of that. So you do that now.
Yeah. Well, no, because I'm always intrigued by it because, you know, how they say that your idea is, at least in marketing, you're really being sold on the idea. But truth is, you're actually being sold on the services that you actually give later on. The idea is just to clinch the deal.
Yeah, but you know, as with all things, there's the democratization of talent happening. So in the old days, you could be a photographer and people go, oh my God, you know, no one could do that. Now everyone with a handphone is a photographer. And if you look at the yearly Apple iPhone photography competition, some of the shots are fantastic and they're taken by everyday people. So you don't command that expertise and that level where you used to, and very few people arrive there now. You know, most everyone's competency has gone up. My 12-year-old son can tell you, you know, you've heard of the golden ratio. Yeah, you should, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. You know, he knows these things.
Yeah.
Right? So the quality has gone up, the expectations have gone up, but yet now more people can do it. So if you're a photographer, you're being squeezed. Where's your money coming from?
So it's the advertising industry would be
It's the same thing. So the challenge that's facing the advertising agency now is that in the past, the idea was you spend 30% of your time and money to make the product or goods and service as into the best quality as possible. 30%. The other 70% you spend on shouting about it. So the industry could make money because that's roughly how much they spend. In this day and age, people spend 70% of their time and money to make the product as good as possible and 30% shouting about it. So now the budgets are all cut and there's a smaller piece of the pie. Why? Because if you make a good product, in this age of connectivity, people pass it on and tell each other about it. That's the best form of advertising. There's nothing better than word or mouth. So you see a few Apple kind of commercials here and there, but most of the time, you get news of it from a leak somewhere. Remember the infamous one where they found some Apple phone in a bar somewhere that conveniently was next to some tech guy that could write about it.
Yeah.
All right, wow, fantastic. And then that dominated the news.
That's very interesting.
Do you need an ad after that? No, everyone's aware of it. Everyone's eagerly anticipating it.
And I think that really comes back to the next question, which is how do you see advertising when you're 28, when maybe you're in New York, in Fallon, and versus how do you see advertising now? The word itself. I mean, what are your views on it?
I think in the past, there was a fair bit of command and control where the brand can say, I'll say this and people will follow and listen. And I liken, my analogy would be going back to parenting. I love using these analogies because I've spent so many of my years being a parent. But in the old days, it's like my dad, when he tells you, go do this, you would listen and you would do it. In this day and age, it's less about control, it's more about influence and collaboration. So I can tell my son go or my daughter go do this. They can choose to go, yeah, but they don't do it. Or they might resent you and go, I hate you and your brand, I'll never do that again. So you can't employ yesterday's techniques and solutions for tomorrow's problems. And tomorrow's problems come very quickly, so it's actually now today. So our kids, you have to give them reasons why, sometimes entertain them, sometimes cajole them, sometimes empathize with them, so that you have to, whatever it takes, connect with them and not shout your message because they're very wary of it. So the everyday customer, consumer out there, if you shout about it, people go like, I get pissed off, right? You're surfing, how many of you actually watch your pre-roll YouTube commercials? So you watch 5 seconds, then go, you've got the chance. You don't.
Some are good.
Yeah, but
Some
how
are
many
good.
of them? How many?
Yeah,
of them?
that's true.
Most of them you just skip. And if I had to sit down and watch 30 seconds, I'll be annoyed. And if you watch the habits of my children, it's the same like us. When the TV commercial comes on, you flip to other channels. So he opens a new page and he'll surf, and you can hear that in the background. Then when it's over, he'll go back to what it is. So you just wasted money.
So will you say that because of that, and that sort of makes advertising less in demand and less interesting as a person who are inside advertising? Your copy, I mean, I'm just looking at just ads in general now versus before. When I give the example of Apple ad where I'm PC and I'm a Mac. And back then it was revolutionary. That ad was like, wow, Yeah, I think it had an idea and it was a great idea. As a person and you being inside the ad agency, it has become less interesting and your influence on the brand, on your idea, has sort of dropped in value. Will you say that that's the reason maybe why you got out? But of course, I mean, there's a lot of other reasons too.
No, I think if you go, this is what I do, and this is the only thing I know what to do, then like all things, you become obsolete. So when the world changes around you, you go, it's less interesting because I'm really good at this. I'm the best photographer in the world, and people have moved on to other things, and that's what you hold on to because that's the only thing you can do. Yeah. I think advertising obviously needs to reinvent itself because the world has moved on exponentially, and yet the business hasn't moved on as quickly. Okay, so the reason why I left was a combination of reasons, predominantly because I go, okay, it goes back to my point of view about the world. that at no point in human history is humanity going through this rate of exponential change. Okay, at no point in the world are things changing so quickly exponentially. 8 years ago, Nokia was number one. Have you all used the Nokia phone before? Exactly.
I did.
Okay, okay.
3310.
3310.
Yes.
Now, 8 years from then, when they were number one and had 40% of the market share, to being shut down by Microsoft. In 2008, Yahoo was valued at $44 billion. Microsoft wanted to buy them, and last week they were sold to Verizon for $4 billion. Yahoo had a chance to buy Google at $3 billion, and now Google is worth what, $600 billion. Okay, so that's exponential change. So if exponential change happens to companies and businesses, you bet it's going to happen to your life. Okay, you bet that if Apple introduces next year the iPhone 7 is the same shape, interest will go like, come on. People are expecting you to wear that, wrap it around your wrist, and then flip it into a tablet size already. That's the exponential. That's the exponential expectation, right? So if that's going to happen, then you have to think a lot of things will have to follow suit. Whether it's society, whether it's countries, whether it's education systems, and of course, advertising.
So you think that your job might be obsolete and hence getting out?
Of course, it will be obsolete. Yeah. So assume, don't even ask, just assume your job will be obsolete. Then start from there. What are you going to do next? Assume that exponentially medical science improves. Okay? My mother's life expectancy is 85. Mine could be 100, could be 120. Because in 20 years' time, medical science will reach a stage. They're 3D printing years now, right?
And organs too.
Organs too.
Yeah.
So in 20 years' time, they go like, Calvin, those years of drinking, your liver, come back next week, we'll extract some cells and we'll print you a new liver. Okay? Suddenly, I can't die. Okay? Suddenly, I outlive my 99-year-old leasehold HDB. What are you going to do? Suddenly, you can't retire at 67 and get your CPF because medical science has moved on so quickly. And you have to work. So what's the current thing? You graduate, come out at 24, go into the workforce, work until you're 99, and then live on after that? No. So I thought, if that's going to happen, I'll take a midlife sabbatical. I'm betting that I will live to 100. So I'll leave my job, spend supposed to be a couple of years, but kind of went overboard. But
2 years, right?
Yeah, supposed to be 2 years. And then spend the time with the kids, watch them grow up, and then go back to work, and then hopefully reinvent and go into the next stage or next evolution of your career.
Was there any particular incident that made you say that was the time to go? Was it the kids?
Well, we'll go back to my dad, where in 1999, when I was offered an associate creative director's position at Fallon, which was then the top 3 creative agency in America, and I was the first Asian to be offered such a high position in New York. And my dad, who had been a civil servant all his life, a legal clerk, he retired at 63, and a year after his retirement, they found out he had stage 4 liver cancer. So I had a heart-to-heart chat with my father and go, look, I can stay back, look after you. I don't have to go. I'm willing to give all that up. So he did what any other father would have done, which is you had to go, you pursue your dreams, go. So I did go, did come back, did fly them over to New York, and they went to Alaska, they went to all over. But that was a lesson where there's no guarantee this dream or this process or this plan that people plan out for you and say you work, but come 67, you get all your money and you can enjoy. There's no guarantee you're in a good condition when you're 67. There's no guarantee. So why are you planning so far ahead? And why are you foregoing all these things? You don't want to end up going, at your deathbed going like, shit, there's so many things that I wish I had done. So one of the things that that you should think about when you're young is to actually sit down and write your eulogy, because that gives you an end point. And your eulogy, when you write it, is never about, oh, I led a great life, I had all these cars, I had these houses. You never write about your physical possessions. You write always about your experiences. I've done this, I met these people, fallen in love, done this, raised fantastic children or not, had some regrets. Those are the things. Then focus on that. Then you'll get that. So that's I think the biggest reason why I left the industry, and why perhaps you have to have the courage to actually execute that. You know, just remind yourself that you're going to die one day, and suddenly all the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, because I remember I was also in marketing before, and I think that there was one point, I think 7-Eleven came out and said, hey, you know, we got a great product, new product on the market. And it's like, okay, what is this? You know, it's like, oh, you have this chicken rice that you can microwave. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Over in my life, hence, actually I took a gap year after that and went to wedding planning now. So on a funny note, actually, so I was told that you're quite a swimmer. When in the marketing days, you wear your speedos. Was that in Singapore or is it in
I was swimming for the country up till I was 12. So I was training competitively and competing every year. And when I was about 12, I think 12 or 13, I was asked to join the swimming in Toa Payoh, and that time Peng Siong was a few years older than me. He was swimming. So that meant having to wake up at 5 o'clock to go to Toa Payoh swimming pool to train, and then shower and then go to school, and then finish school and then come and train again in the afternoon and then go home and all. So I'm like, no. And then my mom was like, no, I'm not going to drive you. That took a lot of effort, you know.
Right.
My mom would have to wake up at 4:30 to send me there and back. So prior to that, I was swimming, then I gave it all up.
It's sort of a recline with your old hobbies when you're in marketing?
Well, yeah, look, I spent my entire primary school and secondary school in the school band. So I played the saxophone. And that was, I enjoyed it a lot. And I was in Tanjung Katong Technical Secondary School where we won a lot of band competitions. It was good times. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't study, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay. No, I just thought that might be like one of your routines to relieve stress or make yourself more creative while you're yeah.
I tell you what was scary when Jaws came out and I was swimming. I was training in the old Mount Emily swimming pool, which was so old school swimming. It had these wooden boards that were all on the side, and the water was flowing through.
Wooden boards?
Yeah, and it was like, old school. So it's concrete and then wooden boards.
Okay.
So each time you kick off the wooden board, you're afraid that if you kick too hard, the boards might break. But when Jaws came out, I remember watching Jaws, I thought, wow, that's so scary. And I swam faster for that whole month because you imagine there was on the other side, there was a shark waiting to come out and get me. That was the only motivation.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wait. The other thing was I used to play the organ.
Okay.
So as well, when I was swimming so I did a lot of things. So I was organ. I remember at 7, I had to perform at the Victoria Concert Hall on stage in a pair of shoes that my mom bought for me that was blue and red and pink. I kept it. Okay, it's a side thing, but
Okay.
I should have kept it.
That was some cool shoes that you had.
It was some cool shoes. Okay, so no, all I wanted to say was that the good thing was my parents put me and let me do a lot of things.
Right.
They didn't push me after when the interest died down, but it was good exposure. Okay, and I think at an early stage with children, my lesson is when kids are young, you should give them and let them try and experiment and do as many things as possible.
Yeah.
That stimulates their minds to be more curious and to be open to new ideas. But when you start putting them into tuition at a very early age, you're actually closing their minds up.
For sure, I agree with you.
Sorry, so 2 years.
Yes, 2 years. I mean, it must be hard being from Maserati to take out truck. What I want to ask really is like, firstly, the bigger question is the financing part of it, and then secondly, to put some meat to the bones, like how much then were you getting? Then drop down to whatever that you are not getting.
I know when we made the calculations, we said okay, we would. I do a little bit of consulting. There's not a lot of money in it, but we said we will survive off our savings until we come to close to running out. Then we'll go back to work. That was and we could survive on 2 years, and that was something that we thought was important for the kids' lives. Now,
And you have 2 kids, then you need to finance all that. The
yeah,
house
so we
was
planned
also-
everything out. So it's not
Okay.
like
There was money enough for 2
I was
years.
fortunate enough that yes, we've saved and there was money enough for 2 years. And then also it's good to take a break from it. My grandfather used to say, if you can drive a car, don't forget to take a bus. How to take a bus. So I think stepping down, moving up. People think if I earn 2,000, that's good. But if I earn 4,000, I can save 2,000. What happens is when you earn 4,000, you spend 4,000. And in this day and age, there's no point putting money in your bank because it's not earning interest. They want you to spend. So in fact, when you earn 4,000, they want you to spend 6,000. That's the reality. So you can earn more and more money, but increasingly you go into debt, and you owe more people, and therefore you can't stop work. So I think the reverse happens, which is when you're at a certain level, to drop down is very difficult. Okay, so there's
Especially the spending habits.
spending habits, and you're thinking about your opportunity cost and all, but you again have to focus on a point of view, and my point of view is an exponential future. Time is the new money. If I don't have that time with the kids now, I can't buy that time back. You can be as successful as you want, but at 60 years old, your children are estranged from you because you're not around when they needed you most. And they're completely different human beings from the ones that you envisioned them or that you had hoped for. So rather than that, I go, okay, it's not even a comparison. You just go, okay, you forgo that for this.
And how did that 2 years was up, money was out, and what happened? What was the new plan that took over?
Then
for money.
I
For
did
you,
a
for
bit
you.
more consulting, and then you
Okay.
cut down on your spending, and you don't shop as much, and you don't go to work, so you come, you walk around like this. Okay, and I think you see.
No, I really want to stress on this because I feel that people hear that like, oh, you do that because you have so much and so much and so much, and I just want to put some numbers, sort of like how much, what sort of habits do you got to kick out, what were really hard to kick out, and like what new habits they form that are important to save, and even for the
Well,
kids.
you just shop less, and you buy only the things you need to buy, and you buy. It doesn't mean you buy things that are made well so that they last longer. Okay, and you learn to make more of the things yourselves. So like my son learns carpentry, and that makes the things that he needs to make. My daughter learns how to sew, and these are important things. Numbers are numbers. I mean, I think it comes down to a sense of self-confidence and belief that if you really need to go back to work, you figure out a way to go back to work.
Yeah.
You will survive. The important thing is to have your wealth, your health, but not think, oh, but I want to get back to that level. You go, no matter what, you survive. So you can forgo all those things, but what you have is you still have your family structure, you still have the kids that you want. The rest is just stuff, immaterial. When you die, you can't take this house with you.
So I think moving on, I think you touched on the point whereby you want to spend more time with kids. And I saw your talk by at South by Southwest They mentioned the theory of the beautiful compromise. So you have given them the greatest gift of all, which is time and attention. And kids being kids, do you think that they see it as the greatest gift or as being a naggy father hangs out too much with them?
No, I think
What it is now and before?
because I left at a stage when Dylan was 8 or 9, and Ava was around 5 or 6. That was the stage where they still wanted you. So Dylan's coming to 14 end of this year. He's a teenager. And when he doesn't need you, then you can go back to work or do, because the teens need their space as well. I get that. So at the most crucial stage, you're there with them and be there with their development. And that's, I don't know whether it's the greatest gift for them. It's still a long ways to see how they turn out, but it was certainly selfishly very good for me. And I think it has also been really good for my wife as well. So she's not the only one bringing them up, and we both kind of divide the roles to do. But if you see the development in the past 5 years in our children, then you look at it and go, for all the money in the world, you wouldn't have done it any other way. So if you look at Dylan now, if you think of his resume, because Singaporean parents judge our children, their resume is their grades, right?
Yeah.
Whether got degree, whether got this and all that. He's an average student, but his resume is he's given the first TEDx talk at 10, second one at 12. He's written and illustrated a book with me. He's about to launch on Indiegogo, and he's done the videos. He's figured out a marketing angle and the sell. All these things, and he's written a 1,000 word article for Esquire on to his future son. All these things are on his resume at 13. How many of us could have said that for ourselves when we were 13? No. And who knows what the world will be in the next 7 years. But certainly those soft skills and those values will be more important than just having a degree for a particular industry that might be obsolete.
No, I couldn't agree more. One of the most difficult part I find that my parents need to go through is to find a balance of, giving compliments when he or she is doing well versus having the discipline to carry what you want to do through. So the question is, how do you strike the balance of if there's any balance at all in this?
Yeah, I mean, okay, it comes at
It could be like a new idea, a new passion every other day, right?
I will roll my eyes. People debate about, should I cane my children or should I? Oh, that's wrong and all. Okay, it all is very contextual. It depends on where you come from, and it depends on the life, the vision that you want your child to lead.
Yeah.
It's not. Don't get me wrong. We have discipline, and we have caned our kids before. On very rare occasions, but on certain things where we go, here are clearly defined lines that you cannot cross. The rest is a bit murky and gray, because life is not black or white. Life is large parts of gray and a little bit of black and white. And there's some clearly defined lines. You're growing up in Singapore, and Singapore has harsh laws and rules. So they have to know there are certain things that you can push, certain things you can't, because the consequences are there. So you spell it out to them, and those things are valuable to you. You go, don't lie to your father or your mother. If you say you'll do something, make sure you do it, and all that. So certain things that you hold dear, the values. The rest of it, we are open to having a discussion. Now, people who then raise their children without this absolutes and go, everything is not absolutes, then sometimes the kids grow up thinking they can push and do everything that way. Life that isn't that either. So my vision of life is very flexible. You play as you go, but there are certain things that you cannot do. You cannot take another person's life and then think it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay? And so you need to be very clear on those. And that's how we kind of raise them now. Then the caning and disciplining follows into that point of view. Rather than, let's talk about the caning and the disciplining.
So it's a clearly defined boundaries. Everything inside is a discussion, and this boundary is enforced by certain punishment that comes.
Yeah, because you're very clear in your head, what's valuable and how you want them to grow up, rather than in the old days, my father raised me was you don't talk until the adult has spoken to you, and you never question your father. You can't go, Dad, can we just sit down and talk about it? No, it will be a slap across the face. And we don't bring up our children that way, where we might tell them to do something, and then the kids will go, okay, you don't think that's right, what do you think? So you give them the opportunity to tell you what they think. Because if not, how are you going to bring up self-confident kids? And then they will go, I think and it should be done this way. So your role as a parent, go, shut up, just do it my way. Okay? And the child will grow up to resent you and not learn anything. Or you go, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll let you try that. If it doesn't work, can you go back to what we talked about? But on the rare occasions where he's or she's done this and it works, then you as an adult have to be big enough to go, you know what, I've learned something. And you learn something along the way. You're right, let's try this. All along I thought you couldn't. Now, then suddenly the kid goes, it's okay to push. It's okay to have my own point of view. It's okay to try something. How many of our kids are brought up that way? How many of our kids that you see walking around now have that self-confidence to do that?
I think you paint quite a clear picture. So I think with just so people who are listening wanted to implement whatever system that you're trying to
they implement their own.
The most important part about that system is actually the boundaries. So I mean, would you be able to share some of the boundaries that you set, and sort of like the punishment or reward system that follows behind it?
Well, there's the usual, unless it's really serious, then the cane comes out, and that's when they're young. Like, you don't cane a teenager now, right? You shame them. You guilt them. No, you don't. You
wouldn't talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
Cold War.
No, you go. Sometimes words are. If we keep using physical pain as a means to punish, then people only react to the pain, but not understand the why. And you've got to get people to understand the why. Okay.
So
and
do you
explain
talk about it first?
clearly? Of course.
Then you cane.
Yes. And you go, this is the reason why it's done. Not because I'm in a rage and I don't like it at all. And to be honest, for any parent, first-time parent, you tend to parent according to how you were parented.
Yes.
So, I was brought up in that strict by a strict father, and initially there was that. You move towards that. But then what changes is you need to go, hang on, the world's very different because it's developing this way. It's very different from the world I was coming up from and my dad's world. So I can't keep using that same methods. Then you create and invent your own. Or you read about other people and you take the best bits. But it starts with every parent having that point of view. The problem I find with a lot of parenting books is parents follow trends. But when you ask them, what's the world that you envision your child to grow up with? How do you want child? They go, I have no idea. They don't think about the end destination, they keep thinking about the how.
I think today I was just also reading on this thing called attachment parenting, where you're supposed to bring your kid everywhere, and when your kid cries, you just gotta pay attention to it like right away immediately. And how that can be so wrong, right?
Do you think life is going to be like that?
No.
When your kid is 40 years old and he's crying and he expects mother or dad to be there, do you want to be?
And that's the book that sold like 1.5 million copies.
So yeah, people.
Okay, so coming back, some boundaries to just give some head start to the
lying.
Okay.
Okay, big no-no, and the value of so that's tied to living up to your word. If you say you do something, you make sure you do it.
And is there the 3, okay, 1 time, 2 time, and take 3, you go and get heavier, the punishment?
You always go, you sit down and try to explain first.
Okay.
And
let's take 1.
And it's very clear. And then if you go willfully keeps doing it, then you go like, dude, come on, we spelt it out, and we've told you no more chances, you shouldn't be doing, and you keep doing it. It's it's no one's fault but yours now. You've been given the option, and we tell our children that there are a lot of things you can't control in life. So you can only focus on the things that are within your control. What's within your control? Your own behavior. and things that you do or not do. So they know those things are very important.
Yeah.
Being rude and not respectful is also very. I don't expect them to be subservient. I expect them to be cocky, to be witty, to be sarcastic and all of that, and to be mouthy. But I don't expect them to be rude.
How will you draw that line?
When they're rude, then they shut at you and go, yeah, you know, or no, I don't. And then go, you know, that doesn't solve this situation. You teach them from young and say, when you shut off like that, I shut off as well.
Okay.
Okay. The best thing I found is you, as a parent, go mimic the behavior. Yeah, then you go. Then when they talk to you reasonably, then you behave like them. Then they get so pissed off. I go, oh, so now you know how I feel. You know.
That's great.
So you do it back to them.
Okay. All right. Move on. You have adopted the stance actually to teach Dylan some really high-level presentation skill, all the way to TED actually. Was that something that you saw that he had a potential for because he was then playing guitar? Or was it something that you think is important for the next generation? Hence, maybe on that note, you will also be imparting that same set of skills to Eva as well.
Yeah. So I think you have to look as you have to look at children as individuals. Okay, our current education system looks at everyone and makes them all the same. You must pass this exam, pass this. So you all move it. There's no specialization, individualism, so to speak, right? The system doesn't go, oh my God, you're so good at cello, but the rest of it sucks. Never mind, you know. They actually tell you should cut down on your cello time and go and learn more math and Mandarin to be like everyone. So in the end, you just become average.
Yeah.
Correct? Because we're all different.
Yeah.
So with Dylan, I think from young he had always shown he's like a wise old person. So even when he was 5, he started asking these existential questions like, why am I here? What is life? What if I'm not religious and let's say I die, do I wake up in heaven? You know, am I the son you thought you would have? What kind of children will I have? So all these questions were very forward projecting. From a very young age, he asked that. So he was very self-aware.
Yeah.
Okay. So you
were having a tough time. I wouldn't be able to answer those questions.
No, I enjoyed it. You can't. It's okay to go, I don't know all the answers.
Okay.
And that's a key point in parenting because we try to tell you, I know everything. Actually, you don't. So it's okay to go, we don't know everything. Let's discover some of the things along the way. You read some philosophy books and then share it with him, and then you explain, this is one school of thought, this is another school of thought. So when he was about 6 or 7, in my previous job, I had to go on stage and give talks. I used to bring him up. So when he'll come out on stage and he'll sit with me, and I'll do the talk, but I'll tell everyone, this is my son, I'm introducing him. He's not going to say anything, but he's just going to sit here.
Okay.
So it's just to get him to sit here, to look out into a few hundred people and then get used to it.
Yeah.
And then when he was...
Baby steps, right?
Yeah,
so important.
8 years old, I said, okay, I'm doing this talk. Maybe I'll weave you in, I'll blah, 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 and I'll do this. What would you say? You know, so he'll bring some of his things into it. So his first TEDx was at 10 when I was asked to give a talk about the future of urban farming.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm not about the future. We should ask someone for whom the future means something. So I went back and said, hey, Dylan, got this talk. You want to do it?
So you pitched
said,
it here.
garden. He said, gardening. So the good thing was, he goes, you know, it's the first time I'm doing it. Okay, I'll do it. I'll try. We write the script together.
Okay.
So we wrote the presentation, and he was amazing. He presented, no problem. All right, 10 minutes, 12 minutes on stage. Right? No problem. And then the second TEDx came about where he had to go, this was tougher. This was the biggest TEDx in Singapore, and he had to go through 3 rounds of audition.
TEDx Singapore.
Yeah. So there was 3 rounds of audition, and I actually went along. He said, why don't you also present on this? And I presented on this.
Was it his idea that he wants to present the second to be on TED
I said,
again?
look, there's this TEDx on this. Would you want to do it? And since we had published the book, shall we talk about the book? So he goes, okay. Then he says, why don't you present something else? So we went for the audition. He presented. I went for audition. Then we sat down. Then you got graded by everyone.
Yeah.
And all. Then Dylan can grade me and say, I think you suck. That one wasn't so good. So I go, thank you. So, and he got chosen, I didn't.
Ah.
Okay? So I go, okay, you're right. I sucked. And he had to go for audition, blah, blah, blah. We auditioned and fine-tuned the presentation. And so now
You knew it.
he's been giving talks. He's given talks for he's now a paid speaker. So P&G now got him to talk at the the global marketing conference, SAP. He opened for the National Library Reading Month with the ministers, so all these things he's been doing.
Very
And now he's quite professional. He goes, I'll tell him, here's this engagement. They've asked you to do this. We've got how much time, and there might be Q&A and all. So he's quite okay about it now.
Wow. So he sort of just fill in the blank. You know what?
Yeah. So
Correct.
he knows what to do. So, but he'll go like, okay,
And the money is being saved in your bank account. Like, this is your future
I'm
money.
spending it, and
Okay.
of course it pays for
yeah,
my
yeah,
sabbatical.
yeah, important.
Then he's like, he goes like, okay, I'm a bit. We can't keep doing this. We have to do new things. So we're doing the new Kickstarter kind of crowdfunding Indiegogo project. So that's something new to keep moving on.
Actually, I kind of want to talk more about the book that you wrote, which actually ties into TED. So you talked about TED a little bit, which is based on the book called The Big Red Dot that you write and Dylan illustrated. So I have so many questions there. I mean, because the book covers such a range of philosophies and concepts from feminism, existentialism, fear of trying, how to have unwavering positivity, and even a little bit of story of the David and Goliath, how to fitting the mold and bullying. Yeah, what was the story behind the story?
So the book was actually written for my kids. And you start with the point of view, exponential future. So what are the values needed for the 21st century? If things are changing so quickly, exponentially, then obviously adaptability is very important. That's Darwinian theory of evolution, that the most adaptable species, not the strongest, the most adaptable will survive. So adaptability is the most important value now. Creativity, resilience, self-confidence, critical thinking, and the courage to ask why and why not. So these were the values I wanted the kids to have. So how do you get those across? So I thought here was this idea of the big red dot, this journey of a little red dot who then eventually through her journey becomes a big red dot. I tried to tell them this story in a way that these values already live in you. So the story of the big red dot is actually the journey of Singapore. There's some parallels.
I thought there was some parallel with your story too.
So it's all that journey of the underdog and all. But if you think about it, Singapore was a startup in the 60s. We were a startup. We had to start a company, a country from scratch and build something.
Yes.
To build something, you need to be entrepreneurial, risk-taking, do things no one has done before, try, fail, and all. We had all those values. Right? Now think about it. How many of us have those values now?
None.
Right. Why? Because we become successful and the
Life
reverse
is
happens.
easy. Correct.
Right. So we become Nokia. So I want to get them to become like Apple or Nike, where you might be doing very well, but go back to being a challenger. And the easiest way to tell that is to tell people that you actually already have those values. It's in your DNA because you're a Singaporean. We were risk takers. We were the startup. It's in you. You just have to dig it out. Then it's not so scary. You tell any Singaporean that, it's undeniable. You go, were we a startup? Yeah. Did we take risks? Yeah. Did we do things no one has done before? Yeah. HDB, JTC, we did all those things, right?
Yes.
So why are we so afraid to do these things again? Then it becomes a very logical, people go, yeah, actually, yeah. Why? So but you already have it. You're not discovering and trying to create something new. It's inside you. Just dig it up. So that was the idea behind it. Actually a book for my kids, but let's see whether it could resonate, because it's for the future of this country as well. What do we need? Do we need more people to follow by the rules, more imitators, or do we need more innovators and inventors? That's a question. And in an age of exponential change, I think we need the latter.
And was that one of the projects that you started after doing the sabbatical?
Yes, so that was the project that we did. So along the way, the book cost us a few thousand to print, but you can take the few thousand and go, oh no, Dylan, we'll send it for math tuition. They'll pay for years of math tuition, right?
Yep.
What would you learn? You've learned a years of math, right? Pythagoras theorem
Yes.
and all. What did he learn from this? He learned how to illustrate, understand concept, debate on how to frame each page, and the style of his drawing. He picked a certain style. He picked the paper stock, went to the printers, looked at the quotes, figure out how to price the product, had to go to farmer's market to cold sell the product. That means go up to strangers, hi, I'd like you to buy this book. And then people were like, no. So he came back and goes, this sucks, no one's buying my book. So I go, maybe you should think about it that here at a farmer's market, your kid selling them a book. What would they want to hear? How would you approach it? Maybe telling them, I just want a book. I wrote a book, that's not interesting, right? I'm selling a book, that's not interesting, right? He goes, yeah. So he thought about it, then he goes, hi, I'm Dylan, so I'm 12 years old. I just wrote this book. Would you like me to read you this storybook? And he targeted these people who come with little kids. So if you're a parent, you go like, wow, what a precocious kid. Okay, I'll listen. Then they listen, then he goes in and goes, oh, I'm selling the book over here. So he learns that there are many ways to skin the cat. And then, while he was initially, believe it or not, he was quite shy, but he overcame all of that to be able to. How many adults have that skill?
No.
So what are the things you've learned in this process?
How many kids are there? Zero.
So what is the process that you've learned from this as opposed to taking the money and going for math tuition?
Agree. I actually want to talk a little bit about the engineering and the training that you guys learned behind the TED Talk. Maybe just a quick 2 minutes thing, how to polish up, what are some quick advice for people who are on the TED stage? Because I bet you have studied it a lot and come on.
Okay, based on my experience, just be yourself and let your personality come across. Okay, everyone say, oh, no hand movements, or stand in the spot, and people tell you, imagine you're a tree and your feet are rooted and you're as one with the stage and all that. Or can you imagine everyone, if you're nervous, imagine everyone naked. The problem with all these things is, for example, you imagine everyone naked and you're looking out there, and then you go, oh my God, you shouldn't be naked. You certainly shouldn't be naked. At the end of it is, you're there to tell a story that is meaningful to you, that you hope can influence someone and change or cause a change or to turn on a switch in someone's head. So your message needs to go in with a point of view and a purpose. But if you're there presenting a PowerPoint, going from slide to slide, memorizing it, then there's no purpose. Apart from there, you're presenting it. You're not contributing and giving a point of view. You're not changing my life in any way. And so that's the first thing I told Dylan. You are there to articulate and deliver a message. If you can be there and after telling this story about the big red dot and telling people to dream big and believe it can happen, and that if you keep singing the song of try, the big red dot in you will grow bigger. If a few of these people walk away thinking and believing in that and actually affects the change in your life, it has worked. Okay, so you have to go in with that feeling and that point of view. And then how you present it, you should be yourself. If you're cheeky and all that, then be yourself. People resonate to it.
Oh, I like it.
Okay.
On a personal note, your tattoos actually. So Kevin have these 2 square tattoos on the inner side of the arm.
Oh, you want to know what it is?
Yeah.
This is done, so my uncle downstairs actually.
Okay,
this is my name in old Chinese, done like a chop.
Okay.
Okay? So it's done like a chop. Su Wei An. And this was done after my dad passed on. So this was like a way to remember him and to remember myself. This was done after the children were born. The last character of Dylan's name is Jun Yi, which is 1. And then Ava's name is Yi Xing, which is heart. So this was done like a also old Chinese Yi. So the two characters is Yi Xing, 1 heart.
Wow.
So it's just done like a chop.
And was that the first tattoo?
First, second.
Second. Very
So, so the kids ask me, go, oh, you got tattoo? I go, next time if you want to have a tattoo, you can have a...
And what's the tattoo about you?
Just
guys?
make sure it's meaningful. Don't go and do barbed wire, and then after that, 5 years from now, you regret it. Just make it meaningful. It's okay.
Yeah, no, there's some good tattoos you got there. So you actually opened the stage for South by Southwest.
No, I gave a talk at South by Southwest.
Yeah, no. Actually, so about the talk when you open it, you briefly mentioned about getting married at the Whitechapel, and then it was 13 years with your wife, and now like adding up the years is 16 now. Yeah. So who's this mysterious woman in your life, and what's the story?
You work so hard in the advertising industry that you tend to marry your co-workers. So she was my art director in Young and Rubicam, actually.
Wait, that was the second
agency, yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, so we kind of had a torrid office affair like most advertising agencies have, and it kind of worked out, and we've been happily married for 16 years, and marriage is like a career, it's hard work. No, I make no bones about it. We tell our children, it's not this bullshit Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, handsome prince coming to sweep you off your feet. That shit doesn't happen. It's a lot of hard work. At the end of it, I told them our job as parents is to help you find yourselves and understand who you are first. When you find yourself, then go and find someone to complement you. Please, for heaven's sakes, don't go and find someone else to fill a hole in you because you don't know who you are, because that's the biggest mistake you could do. So that's the advice we give our kids. Find yourself, know who you are.
Was it advice for yourself too?
I think that's the thing I wish someone had told me when we were young and gave me that kind of advice. And we came from a time where you got together and you were determined to make things work. So, in the course of relationship, we've had quarrels, we've had cold shoulders, the usual. But I think the point is we both shared the same point about life and how it would go, and it is the beautiful compromise. That's what I talked about. It is life in itself is the beautiful compromise. When you're born, you die. That is a compromise that you have to accept already.
How do you happen to end up at the Whitechapel?
Oh, because we were doing that road trip throughout America.
Oh, that was then.
Yeah, so let's go off to Vegas, and then we had 1998 Memphis, Tennessee Elvis of the Year singing for us on our
No way.
Yeah. So you create all these
That's
things.
awesome.
You see, I'm talking about it 16 years from now, and we'll probably be talking about it. Before I die, that'll be one of those things that will go past you in your 10 seconds of whatever. You're not thinking about the Maserati that you used to drive.
So one of the more important questions, actually, this coming from me. So there are so many interesting projects and so many interesting people that you meet and probably are constantly pitching you interesting projects. What are the guiding principle of the True North for you right now?
I think so if you know yourself, then one of the things I try to get the kids to understand that it's okay to make a profit if you have a purpose. So don't go into a business to make money just because you can make lots of money, but at the cost of whether it's the environment or the fabric of human society, etc., etc. So have a purpose and then profit from it. So I kind of look at things that way. Will it help us all? Is it good for us? And one of the things, that's one of the reasons why we call this place One Kind House. We want ideas that are kind for humanity and maybe a bit more selfless rather than being a bit more selfish. So I judge ideas that way. And then the other thing is when you have an idea, obviously the most important question is there a audience for it? Are there customers for it? If you don't, so when you talk to people, a lot of people have ideas and all, but they don't know who's going to buy into the product or use it and all. Then you go, until you understand that, you don't really have a business.
Gotcha. Those are two really good points. Okay, so we're going to jump off to some quick questions before we end off. Are there anyone or any decision you own your success to?
Anyone? I think I owe everyone my success. I think anyone who had
Were to pick one?
crossed and passed, man. Wow,
Don't worry.
So many ex-girlfriends to credit this success.
I heard quite the Casanova.
I didn't. No, I was a virgin when we got married. You can put that on camera.
Someone's actually laughing.
I would say the grounding came from my grandparents here. So I grew up in a house where we had 6 uncles, 6 aunties, and it was a very big family. We didn't have a lot of food, but there was a lot of love and there was a lot of affection and there was a lot of sacrifice. I remember my grandmother, who in the late 70s or so, she had cancer of the colon. And she was actually given like a year or 2 to live. And she walked around with a bag, right? I can't remember what it's called, but the bag's outside. But she lived for 10 over years. And she was very strong. Despite all that, she was still carrying on her life as normal, being the mother of so many children. She'll wake up, she'll make the coffee in the morning at 6. She'll wash the clothes. Those days, there was no washing machine, so she'll wash the clothes by hand. Her hand, when you held her hand, was full of calluses and bunions and hard-wearing skin. And then my grandfather was in a job where he worked very hard. He did anything the bosses wanted him to do. He would wear a shoe until there was a huge hole, and he'll put a tape over it and he'll wear it. So he was very frugal. Because he had a family to feed. And we didn't have a lot to eat, but we made the best of it. I think the grounding experience was that money it's important, but it's not the most important thing. At the end of it, this community and the people around you are the ones that matter the most. So you work towards that.
Advices, you're 48, so advice for your maybe 22 years old self, and maybe 30 at 32. So 22 and 32, and place us where you're at. If I look back, it now makes sense, the journey and to arrive here. Now, after this, I don't know where I'm going to end. Yeah.
Okay? We all don't, right? We all think we do, but we don't. But now, when you look back, it's what Steve Jobs said. All you can do is collect as many dots as you can. And when you look back, you can see how it connects. But you can never see how it connects going forward. So I wish when I was 22, I collected more dots. Okay, I wish, despite all the journey and all, I wish I had believed in myself more and trusted yourself more. That things will work out, And I think that advice will be consistent when I'm 30.
32.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So at any stage, now I'm telling myself, don't worry, it'll work out because you've had experience. It's never let you down before. Something will turn out and something will happen and something will be good for you.
Yes. Any books or documentary to recommend?
My thing is I used to read everything and anything. So when I was growing up, my parents, my mom spent a lot of money to buy me the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Oh.
Which was very expensive and all that. And was like, the year I was born. So I read the Encyclopedia Britannica. That was my Google, right? So when I went to school and people were talking about sex education in primary school, kids, they only know the rude Hokkien names. I can give them the scientific names.
The Latin.
I can give you the Latin names. I can tell them every part. What part of the female anatomy you're talking about? Yeah, I can tell them all that. And they're going to like, what are you talking about? You know? So just read anything. I would read anything. I think the most important thing is just be curious and wanting to learn and to find out and just be open and don't be.
I mean, with also the economy of time, so I mean, like, since you read so much, is there any
You can read so much
stuff that stood out? For
okay,
you?
as you get older, you kind of want to read opinion pieces and to find out what people think. But generally now also on social media, when you say something and people get like offended and they write in and all that. I think the thing I've realized is I don't go into any disagreement wanting to be right. I actually go into the disagreement or if people disagree with you, wanting to learn. I go, why do you say that way? Why do you think this way? And then you put your point of view. And then it doesn't matter whether they agree or disagree. People get very protective. Oh, you have to agree. You go like, why should I agree with you? I just want to learn. And I've learned something. I might not agree with you, but I've learned something. Thank you very much. So it's a very, very polite way and a very, very kind of educational for me. But when you have the mindset of I have to be right, then it's sometimes people don't think about what they're saying. They don't think about whether it makes sense or not. They just want to be right. And that's a different mindset altogether.
Okay. Morning routines or routines and habits that you find important?
I can procrastinate or I can then, I'm not a fixed creature of habit. So there'll be times I wake up in the morning and we'll go for a run. I'll go for a run, go for a workout. Like this morning we went for a run, went to the park to work out, and then, or some mornings you sleep in because I have the luxury to. But I think we put too much pressure on ourselves and say we have to live and behave a certain way. So I think if you take the pressure off and the guilt off and go, look, sometimes you really have to get up early and go and exercise and get off your butt. Fine, go do it. And it's the hardest thing to do, to wake up and push yourself off. But you think you can't not, it's good to do that so that you remind yourself what it means to push some things through. And then on the other hand, it's okay to don't feel guilty, have another slice of chocolate cake and sleep a little bit later. Yeah, it's not going to kill you. So we don't beat ourselves up so much. I don't beat myself up so much.
If you were to be given a bus poster to design, what is it going to say?
To design what?
Yeah, anything. Whatever you want, your heart desire. You want a contest, you got this poster, it's a free space for you to put anything on it.
Then you try to make the bus poster of some use. You put a solar panel, you put a rainwater harvesting unit, and you could be growing stuff. You put a poster that has a solar kind of oven that can compost stuff that could be done. You can put a poster that has a solar panel and then charges people's handphones. That could be done.
That could all work.
Right?
What are some of the most common misconceptions about you or your work?
I don't know. I've never stepped out of myself to look at myself. Some people say maybe I'm too westernized. Some people say I'm too local. So it depends on my mood. If I speak too much Hokkien, then to those people, they go, oh, this guy's not too Singaporean, too local. Or sometimes when you speak too well and on subjects that are a bit more esoteric, then they go, oh, he's too West. I think, okay. People think I'm anti-establishment. And in Singapore, anti-establishment means anti-government. Actually, it's just, I see it as like you can support a football team like Liverpool or Chelsea or Manchester United. But just because you support that team doesn't mean you can't criticize that team. So it's very silly for people to go, as long as because they want to win an argument, so you criticize you're wrong. Actually, no, you're just applying some critical thought and thinking to the whole process.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess to almost end off, what are some of the projects you're currently working on, and what can people look forward to?
So the biggest project we have now is this house, One Kind House. So Dylan has his projects, doing the book and doing the GIY stick. And Ava has her project. She's an avid ice skater, so she skates competitively, and she's driven. She will wake up at 4 o'clock and she will wake us up, and we'll have to take her to Jurong skate rink to skate. So she will do that. In the meantime, she's sewing this, so I'm wearing her creation.
Oh.
So she learns how to cut the pattern and then sew it with an interlocker and the commercial sewing machine.
Wow.
And she's sewing this, and we're selling it here. So they all have their projects and to do.
Yep.
And they understand that they can make a little bit of money out from it. So they learn that when I make things with my hands, there's some reward. There's also a financial reward. You know, those things are important. My mom has a new lease on life now. She goes to the park, does the Tai Chi, and she does the garden. She now does cooking lessons where you pay to learn old recipes, and she will cook, and some of her friends will come, and the elderly have shown a lot of support. They want to showcase their recipes. So there's dignity in growing old. We all will grow old one day, and you just think about it. Do you want to grow old working in a McDonald's or a hawker center clearing plates? No. So we have to design a better future for the elderly, and there are ways to do it. So this house is sort of a social experiment to figure out. So my mom has that. The growing of the vegetables means that we're all kind of connected to nature, so that you understand the cycle of life. And the problem that we're facing in the world is we're so disconnected with nature that we think what our actions have no consequences at all. And the last thing is, this house could be an incubator for young artists, chefs, maybe even new ideas and startups. So there's a coffee guy coming, and we'll have coffee throughout the whole day. And maybe you can come here and use this as a co-working space. This space we use as a tuition coding place, and kids can learn.
So where can people find you and follow you on the interwebs?
I think you can find me on... it's funny. I think you can find me through my son. So if you Google Dylan So, you can find me. That would be my answer.
and to follow. And
to go back to your question about children, I don't take Ava and make her do the TEDx talk because she doesn't like public speaking. So I don't force her. I go, you don't like it, that's fine. We brought her out on stage before with her brother, so we're together. But she goes, I don't like it. I said, okay, we don't push it. What do you like, and how do we work on the things you like? However, at some stage, we told her, after you've, let's say, designed something, you've still got to figure out how you're going to front it to sell it. So it's important. Maybe now you're uncomfortable, but we'll work towards getting you to a stage where you can be comfortable enough. Okay, so we adjust accordingly. They're both very different. They're different.
All right.
We work to their strengths.
No, it's actually exactly the reason why I asked the question. So you got to find, you can only find Kevin through Dylan.
Yeah, Dylan So, DYLANSOH. And then look for CALVINSOH. I'm on Facebook, okay? So it'll be easy.
But you don't want people to add you.
No,
Please add him.
No. If you try to add me with no profile picture, or you have a very busty picture of yourself, I'm not going to add you.
Okay, there you go. There you go, this is it. We're done. Thank you.